Imagine a life without parents, no one to look up to, no one to cheer you up when you're down, no one to encourage you, and no one to be your pillar. This is the story of Ebuka, a 10-year-old boy living with his grandmother from his father's side. An inter-village fight occurred in the village of Oibu when Ebuka was 8 years old, claiming the life of his parents and only sister. At first, everyone thought no one made it from the Wanfo family, just to find Ebuka lying almost lifeless by the side of the door. A lot of lives were lost. 2 years later, after most villagers are back to their daily life, it wasn't the same for Ebuka. He had to take care of his grandmother as well as do housework. There was no money to go to school. Every morning, he wakes up very early to fetch water from the stream and to fetch firewood that they can use for the day. He was doing these activities early enough so that he could have time to watch the other children go to school and also march into their classroom. He loved watching them march. At times, he joined them to sing along while they marched to their classes. Ebuka wanted to go to school, but his grandma was ill, so she couldn't raise money to send him to school. Unlike other kids, Ebuka wasn't really good at things like dancing or playing flute or singing, and also too small to trade in the market according to traditions of the land. He had hoped that one day he was going to go to school. Months passed and his grandma wasn't getting better, so he thought to himself, I can learn too. All I have to do is listen from the window and I'll be able to read and write. So he woke up very early, did his house chores, made a meal for his grandma, then he went to school and stood by the window. He wanted to learn what was being taught, but when the class teacher saw him, he quickly told him to leave, which he did. He felt bad about it but didn't give up. He went to the school again the next day, but to a different class. Little did he know that this time, it was his right class, but this time he hid where no one could really see him, but he could see and hear what was being taught. After school for that day, he went home excited because he learned something that day and couldn't wait to tell his grandma. When he got home, he served food to his grandma, then he narrated everything that happened that day and all that he learned. She was pleased to the extent of retentiveness. For someone without a pen and paper, he could remember a lot that was being taught. His grandma told him, don't worry, my child. I will send you to school and you'll be able to sit in the classroom like others when I get better. Ebuka continued going to school through the window, but he never gave up. He made sure to learn as much as he could each day. He also learned some students' names so as to make friends with them. One day after school, he met a student named Obi. They exchanged pleasantries. Then he asked Obi if he could assist him with the assignment. Obi looked at him and asked, do you attend our school? Ebuka said no, so Obi quickly asked, so how will you assist me with it? Ebuka said, I can give it a try. So Obi told him where he lived and told him to come much later before supper. When Ebuka was done helping his grandma, he quickly ran to Obi's house and they did the assignment together. Obi was surprised that Ebuka could attend 50% of the assignment. After the assignment, they departed ways and Ebuka went home. After school each day before dinner, Ebuka goes to Obi's house to do his assignments with him. This was helping Ebuka gather the knowledge, so he was always glad to go to Obi's house. One fateful day, while he was hiding by the school window, he saw an old man carrying a heavy bag and ran towards him to offer a hand of help. He carried the bag to the old man's hut and wanted to quickly dash out, but the old man quickly called him and said, my son, thank you for your help. Where are you in a haste to? Ebuka quickly responded, I have to go back to school. The old man said, but you aren't putting on your uniform. He told him that he learned through the window. The old man reached out for his bag and gave Ebuka a flute, telling him, my son, please take this. I have no coin on me. But Ebuka said, thank you. 9. I didn't do it for money. Ebuka accepted the flute even if he didn't know how to play it. He took it home and showed his grandma. Mama, see, I was given this after helping an old man today. So his grandma tried to teach him to play. But the moment Ebuka put the flute in between his lips and tried to play, the magic flute started playing on its own. His grandma was marveled on how he played it so well, but she felt something was strange. Ebuka has never played before, but she kept to herself. She didn't want to ruin the joy she was seeing on his face while he played. The next day, Ebuka took his flute to school. He was so glad to show his friend Obi. So when school was over, he waited for Obi at the usual spot. When Obi got there, he told him that he would like to play for him on their way home. Obi said, okay. So Ebuka started playing the flute. Obi was dancing with so much joy, so as everyone they passed on the way home. Most men nodded their head to the sound of the music. Some were glad with the sounds of the music and gave him coins, while some wondered how he could play so perfectly at a very young age. When Ebuka got home, he counted the coins which he had gotten, and to his greatest surprise, he had 10 coins. He was so glad and quickly went to show his grandma. His grandma advised him to keep it for his school, that when she gets better, she will make it up and send him to school. One fateful day, the town crier announced that there will be a feast in the palace to welcome the arrival of the king's first grandchild and grandson, and whoever performs so well will get the king's blessings. Villagers were excited to attend the feast. They practiced their various talents from cultural dancing, singing, wrestling, down to musical instruments. Ebuka was also excited about the occasion too because he knew he was going to play his flute. So he went to Obi's house to practice, but realized he forgot his flute. So he tried practicing with another flute and he sounded so terrible. That was when he knew that the flute played on its own and it wasn't his doing. He felt let down immediately, so he went back to the old man who gave him the flute to tell him what he had noticed. The old man told him not to worry and said, "The flute I have given you can produce different melody provided you permit it to. It obeys whoever holds it." Ebuka thanked the old man and left. The day for the feast reached and everyone gathered in the palace. They all presented their lovely performance and was greatly cheered by another. It was time for Ebuka to perform. The moment he started playing the flute, everyone became quiet. He played so well and the king was moved as well as everyone who listened. When everyone was done with their performances, it was time to award the best performance. Ebuka won it, so he was called to collect the king's blessings. When Ebuka came out of the crowd, the king asked him who he was. Ebuka introduced himself and the king gave him a box filled with wrappers, a land, and also promised to pay the school fees. Ebuka was excited and thanked the king greatly. After the feast was over, Ebuka ran home to show and tell his grandma all that the king gave to him. When he arrived home, he said, "Mama, I can now go to school. The king loved my music and promised to send me to school. He also gave me these gifts." That same evening, he heard a knock on the door. It was the old man. He came to collect the flute. He told Ebuka, "The flute I gave you has done its job. It's time for it to help another." Ebuka thanked him greatly and promised never to forget his kind deeds towards him. Ebuka is now sitting in the classroom like every other child, thanks to these kind deeds by helping the old despite his zeal to learn each day, and to the king who sent him to school because the song got to his heart. Moral lesson: be nice to people. No one knows the end of a road from its starting point.
Please like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on the notification bell to get more interesting stories like this.